Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. Lovely to hang out with you again, it's been a while. So without further ado, let's just jump into some playtime with the Midnight Sun palette from McGrath. It was released a couple of weeks ago and I'm going to give you the details on what I ordered, how I ordered, what I think about the palette in the very end of the video. Now we're just going to jump into the demo because I just want to play with the eyeshadow palette and put some makeup on. So the first shadow I'm going to go into is this sort of mid-tone neutral brown. Over here it's like the perfect transition shade and I'm actually really excited to use it again because I used it yesterday and it was just so lovely. So I'm just using a fluffy brush and windshield wiper motions and just working that through the crease and a little bit in the outer corner, but we're going to put something else in the outer corner. The good thing about this shade is that you can definitely build it up to quite an intensity, so if you wanted to just use this shade to define your crease and then deepen it up, I feel like it would work really nicely for that too. I feel like I'm already overdoing it as it is. I really don't want it to be too intense of a crease. Next I'm going to take a small shader type of brush like this one and I'm going to go into this really deep brown shade over here. It's a brown with what looks like neutral to cool undertones to me, and I think it's going to be pretty pigmented, so I'm going to start off really lightly and I'm going to basically define the outer corner over here with that shade. So I want to just sweep this up across here and sort of deepen the outer corner, just so whatever I use afterwards over top of it appears to be even darker. We're going to be attempting a halo eye today. I'm not sure how that's gonna turn out, but we're gonna try. Especially trying to push that here into my lash line. Trying not to take it up too high, just concentrate it here in the very outer part of the eye. And then I'm going to slightly feather it like this. And this is a technique that I've been using a lot lately, which is also why I wanted to feature it in this video, because it's something I've been doing pretty much in most of my looks lately, because I don't really feel like winging a liner, and I feel like this is a great way to sort of cheat your way into still getting that somewhat more elongated shape with like the dark towards the outside without really having to wing a liner. Not sure what happened to my love for wing liner, it just seems to be, you know, on a break at the moment. Nothing wrong with that, it's making me experiment with different techniques for putting my makeup and I actually don't mind at all. Very unpredictably, we're going to do a look centered around the green shade here, and that is the shade that I want to put slightly over top of the brown shade and also in the inner part of my eye. So we're going to put this shade in the inner and outer part of the halo, and then I'm going to use this sort of like green tinged gold shade in the center of the lid to just, you know, try to do a little bit of like a green gold smoky eye, see how that turns out. So now I'm going to use the same brush on which I had the deep brown shade and I'm going to dip into the olive green shade because I cannot wait to use that eyeshadow. And first I'm going to go in dry, just so I can map where I want the eyeshadow to be and I can blend it out easier, because I do want to put down glitter glue later, but if I put down glitter glue now I'm going to have a really hard time blending. So I'm going to just sketch out where I want this eyeshadow to be dry, and then I'm going to go in with glitter glue to just intensify it even more. Honestly, maybe it's not even necessary to put glitter glue with these shades because Pet's eyeshadow formula is so pretty and so gorgeous and good quality that you don't probably even need to use this shade with glitter glue. But halo eyes are not my forte, so do not get your hopes too much, okay guys? We're just playing with the palette. If you're someone who doesn't like to use glitter glue, I absolutely think you do not even need glitter glue, but I am really curious how this shade is going to apply with glitter glue, so I am eventually going to try that. Now I'm going to take my fluffy blender brush over here and I'm going to start blending around the edges on the outer corner and above the crease and just sweeping so that everything is a little bit more diffuse. I am not really going to connect the dark shadows on top too much because I have found out that that technique doesn't really work for my eye shape, or at least I feel like it doesn't. feel like on this side my eye looks a bit more elongated, so I'm going to try to have it the same on this eye. Without really pulling, I don't want it to be like overly dramatic or something, I just want it to be a little bit more elongated on this side. Now I'm going to take the glitter glue. I'm using my last drops of Notoriously Morbid's Shadow Bind, and I am going to concentrate most of that in the center of the lid where I want that gold shade to be, but I am also going to sweep a little bit of that onto the outer and inner part of the eye and reapply the olive shade over top of glitter glue, because I just want to see whether it pops even more. Now I'm going back to my little shader brush and into the olive shade, and I am going to pack that over top of the glitter glue. We can do some cleaning and blending again in a bit, but for now I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to dip my finger, I think I'm going to go in with my finger here, and I'm going to dip into this shade here first. This is the greenish gold like I mentioned, and then I'm going to put on top of it some of this topper shade here, because this is the only like truly special super glittery shade in this palette. This one is glittery as well. These two I wouldn't necessarily call like topper glittery types of shades. This is the only one that feels like, I don't know, VR Nectar and VR Fire Opal from Bronze Seduction and Sublime, if you're familiar with the formula of these eyeshadows. This one feels like this in terms of its formula and how it applies on the eye. First I'm going into the greenish gold shade and applying that here onto the center of the lid and just feathering it lightly into the olive green like this. I'm taking it also a bit up into my crease, because when I close my eyes it's going to stamp onto the crease anyway, so I might as well just do that now. I am not going to intensify this shade any further because I do want to put the topper shade over top of that. And I'm trying to concentrate that more really in the center of the lid. I don't think I'm going to be applying any more on the lids, I just don't want to go overboard, so I'm just going to do a little bit of blending around the edges so everything is nice and smooth. Maybe dip a little bit back into that transition shade we applied earlier and make sure that that was not lost throughout the rest of the blending process. For my inner corners I'm going to go into this shade over here, which is supposedly a champagne with like peachy type of reflects, and I'm just using a small pencil brush for that, and I'm just going to sweep that here very gently into the inner corner. And I don't promise I'm not going to put some of the topper shade over top of that because I have zero self-control. We are going to put some of the topper shade on top. So I'm going to just take a little bit of this shade as well and also lightly sweep that here in the inner corner for some extra light in the inner corner. Going into my lower lash line, I'm first going to take this super dark brown shade again, and I'm going to concentrate that towards the outer corner of the eye, just so I maintain that really dark outer corner. But as you see, I'm only putting it like hardly 1/3 of the way in. As a base for the last shadow I'm going to take this Kiko eyeshadow stick in the shade number 4. It is a beautiful light brown shade, and I'm going to apply that in my waterline. Taking my little pencil brush again, and I'm going to dip into this shade here, which is a beautiful light, I don't know, like a browny champagne kind of shade. And this is going to go in my waterline as well as on my lower lash line to connect with the super dark brown. Actually, I'm missing a little bit of warmth on the lower lash line, so I'm going to take just the tiniest bit of that gold shade we have in the center, and I'm going to sweep that right here next to the bronzy brown in the inner corner of the eye. Okay guys, so here is a close-up of the eye look. And this is the final look together with a lipstick and all. I just quickly wanted to mention in case you were curious what the lipstick is, because it's actually a combination of two different colors. One is the Pat McGrath Luxe Trans lipstick in the shade Donatella, which is kind of a really pale peachy nude, or at least that's how it looks on me. I've been, you know, looking for some more nudes to add to my collection lately, so I decided that Donatella might be an interesting choice, and it is. However, what I really love doing with Donatella is actually mixing in it together with this Suku Extra Glow lipstick in the shade 01, which is something with beige. I don't know, the name has beige in it, and it is an absolutely beautiful, very, very moisturizing formula. The color is also leaning a little bit more towards like the peachy nude range. Actually, if you compare this one to this one is much more cool tone, but if you pair the two together, I feel like they make a beautiful, moisturizing, glowy peach nude lip. Anyway, moving on to actually giving you a few thoughts about the palette. Let me start off with where I ordered it from. Now, I've told you a couple of times before that in the past couple of months I've been primarily ordering Pat McGrath products from the Selfridges website. However, I found out on the launch day of this palette, which was September 6th, that Selfridges for some reason is going to only release the palette a week later, so around the 12th of September, which honestly is surprising to me. I really don't care for things that are inconsistent, and the Pat McGrath foundation launch was exactly on the same day as the website. The palette now is on a different day. I don't like that. I think either you should release everything at the same time or release always things on Selfridges a week later. I don't care for inconsistency. That being said, I don't know whose fault it is, whatever. I decided that I do not have the patience to wait for Selfridges, also because I compared the prices that I would be paying via Selfridges and via the Pat McGrath website, where I could also get the 10% VIP discount off. So when I compared the prices, it was literally the same. 130 euros on Selfridges versus 130 euros from the Pat McGrath website, together with the VIP discount, and the shipping costs from Pat McGrath's website are also zero. So I thought, you know what, I've had a great experience with ordering from the Pat McGrath website, so I think I will have the palette quicker if I order from her website itself. Where do I base this experience from is basically every other time I have ordered from the Pat McGrath website. Say I ordered on a Friday. By Tuesday, Wednesday tops, my product would be at home. Like, it would be shipped really quickly, it would be shipped via DHL, and DHL would basically deliver it like 1 or 2 days later. Which is why I was almost 100% sure that the palette will be here already last week. Unfortunately, I don't know what's going on. Maybe they've changed like the DHL service that they're using, like it's a less quick option than before. But first of all, it took a few days before I even got a shipping notification. I think it was almost a week, like not in terms of like working days, but in like my mind it was almost a week, and then it still took quite a few days compared to normally for me to take the palette. In the meantime, it launched on Selfridges, and I know on Selfridges they take like 2 to 3 days to actually ship the product, but then it arrives really quickly. So in the end, it didn't make any difference. If I had ordered from Selfridges, I would have also gotten the product on the same day that I did when I ordered it from the Pat McGrath website. This was a really whole story to tell you that probably in the future I will just stick to Selfridges, because I think I can count on them for consistency in terms of shipping like time. So, moving on from that, let's talk about the actual palette. So, when I saw the promo photos of this palette, first of all, I didn't even have to see promo photos of this palette. I've been waiting for her to release another Mothership palette already since, I don't know, the beginning of the year or something, and I knew she was going to do that. I just wasn't sure when. And it seems like she's going to be sticking to one Mothership palette per year, because if I remember correctly, Bronze Seduction was released around the same time last year. So Bronze Seduction was basically the last Mothership installment that was released, and that was already a year ago. On the one hand, I'm really happy that she's not joining the ABH craze of releasing palettes pretty much every week, like I can't even keep track anymore. And on the other hand, I would have preferred it if she released 2 Mothership palettes per year, but that's just my personal choice. In terms of price and overall like packaging style, everything is very consistent with her. The only thing in terms of packaging I'm going to throw in, I know a lot of people were super bummed that essentially the artwork on the packaging is extremely similar, not to say the same, compared to the Bronze Seduction palette. Only the Bronze Seduction palette has like more red tones to it and like minor differences in the packaging, whereas this one has like the purple tones and a little bit of like those purple flowers going on here. Now personally I am really happy to have this one, because my Bronze Seduction palette is the limited edition matte edition, which, let me show you. So this is my Bronze Seduction palette. As you can see, the artwork on this one is completely different from the original Bronze Seduction, which is in the, you know, the permanent line. While the limited edition Bronze Seduction packaging is really beautiful, I'm gonna be honest with you, I was lusting after the original Bronze Seduction packaging as well. So I'm actually really happy to now have this one, because this is essentially the Bronze Seduction packaging with somewhat different tones to it. So for the rest, the packaging is very standard. It's like the hard cardboard with like the little stringy wraps over here, and the actual eyeshadow palette comes in the hefty black lacquered packaging with the beveled mirror inside. Beveled is a word I learned from Michelle Wang, who I think was the first one to describe it properly, because I, for the life of me, would not have known what word to use for this mirror. And these are the shades. Now take my opinion on the actual eyeshadows in here with a grain of salt, because I am really biased towards Pat McGrath at this point. I just really enjoy her formula. I think there's something special to the way she constructs her color stories. I like the way she combines the different textures, so I am really biased. I love this palette, just like I love all of the other Mothership palettes that I have in my collection. I use them with so much joy, and they always just bring me such pleasure to put them on my eyes. I always really enjoy the looks that I create with them. For some reason, Pat McGrath palettes have some magical effect on me. So, like I said, take everything that I say with a grain of salt. First, let's talk about the color story. Now, I don't fucking know what Midnight Sun is supposed to be. I am a simpleton like that, and Midnight Sun are like oxymoronic terms to me, like a sun at midnight. What? Apologies for not being artsy enough to understand the term Midnight Sun, also because I don't really know what's midnight or sun about this, because if you ask me, if I had to name this palette, I would call it autumnal forest or something, because these colors speak like fall forest colors to me personally, except for that purple over here. So except for if we cover this purple here, the rest of these shades are so autumnal, and it makes sense that she releases such a fall appropriate palette in this time of the year. But you know, I don't quite make the leap and the connection between the color story of this eyeshadow palette and the term Midnight Sun. The eyeshadow colors that are included in this palette are 3 mattes, these 3 over here. I love all 3 of them. I love a good transition shade, and this one is just so beautiful because it has a little bit of like camely yellow tones to it, and I was really missing a transition color in this shade from Pat McGrath in my collection, because all of her other browns either lean cool or a bit more like brick red, and nothing's quite like this shade. This shade over here, I don't really... It's one of the standard, like, really dark shades that she always includes in her Mothership palettes. Honestly, I'm really happy that it's not a black. That being said, I think it serves the same purpose as a black eyeshadow. This shade over here, though, oh, I am so in love with this color. It's such a beautiful, muted, brick red shade, and it has such a stunning formula to it. I'm going to swatch this one for you. I'm not going to swatch all of them. You can, like... Excuse me. While I make a mess. You can literally find swatches of these eyeshadows everywhere on the internet, but I'm just going to swatch some of the more interesting ones here. So this is the brick red shade. It is absolutely stunning. It's so appropriate for the season. I used it yesterday and I really enjoyed the formula as well. I've never really had a problem with Pat's matte. Well, that was a mouthful. I've never really had a problem with the matte formula of Pat McGrath, and this is no exception. I love all these 3 shades. This is also a standard like champagne toned shade. I don't really see much of like tonal differences between all the different shades that she includes in this spectrum. Yes, one of them leans more pink, one of them leans more like golden champagne, this one supposedly leans more peach champagne. Honestly, once I put them on the eyes, I don't really see much of a difference. Now, I am so So happy that she included this shade over here. This is a dark olive green tone shade. We're going to swatch this shade, although I used it on my eyes, but you know, just for shits and giggles. This is so pretty. And of course the formula is outstanding. It is a very soft, creamy, metallic eyeshadow. Like not like an overly foiled metallic shadow, but like a, I don't know, a classic, more metallic type of shade. And now let's talk about the icing on a cake, what everyone lusts after when it comes to her mothership palettes, and that is this corner over here with the so-called special shades. So essentially what is missing this year is a true duochrome topper shade. Yes, we are getting 4 topper shades, but they are not duochrome, or at least not that I can tell. This one maybe has a little bit of like more interesting reflex to it, but I would like not necessarily call it a duochrome shade. It is a very beautiful formula, it is very glitzy and very sparkly, but it is not necessarily like one of her true like VR Nectar, VR Fire Opal-esque type of shades. Now, this shade over here has the classic flaky texture that Bronze 005 has in her Sublime palette. This eyeshadow, excuse me, works best over a glitter glue because, as you can see, it is extremely flaky. However, it is a gorgeous orange bronze shade and I will really enjoy using it because I do really love using shades like this. I used it yesterday and it is also very glitzy and very sparkly. Then we come to these shades over here, which have the formula of the red shade from Bronze Seduction and the blue shade from Subliminal. So they are somewhat drier to the touch and they are not necessarily duochromes. They're very pigmented, but they're not super sparkly and super glittery. They just have a very like beautiful metallic sheen to them. So let's swatch the purple shade. The purple shade is actually really beautiful. I haven't used that one yet. It has beautiful lavender tones to it, but as you can see it is not necessarily a very glittery shade, or like not at all. Then we have this shade over here, which is sort of like a greenish gold. Mother Pet loves her golds. So this is the swatch for that shade. Now, am I sad that instead of this shade we're not getting a beautiful duochrome topper type of shade? Yes, I am. Would I have preferred to have a true duochrome with the true very sparkly glittery formula that Pat McGrath has in her other eyeshadow palettes? Yes. Am I disappointed that there isn't one more of these? Yes. On the other hand, this is not my palette, this is not my color story. She has made her decision and that's it. I'm just happy to have another mothership palette. Now, the last topper shade is a true topper shade. This shade is definitely what you expect of her super glittery, super glitzy. Sorry, I just realized that I swatched the topper shade over the green gold, so let me do a better job. This is a swatch of the last topper glitter shade by itself. As you can see, it is a very glittery shade, and when you stand in artificial lighting you definitely see different color reflex popping up. I did see like bluish type of reflex yesterday when I was standing in the elevator at work under the artificial lighting, so this shadow is much more complex than it looks in the pan or even in broad daylight. So for those of you who buy the mothership palettes for the truly special, glittery, out of this world eyeshadows, you're only getting one in this eyeshadow palette. I don't really consider Blood Moon 005 to be a topper type of shade, so if you're buying them just for that, be warned, you're only getting one of these here. I do love the color story of this eyeshadow palette. I'm going to have a lot of fun playing with it, just like I have with the other mothership palettes, but I am missing a little bit the extra glitz. That being said, I'm not disappointed in this eyeshadow palette, also because I had seen a bunch of reviews of other people before I got my hands on it, so I already knew a little bit what to expect. I think this pretty much concludes everything that I wanted to show you and tell you about the Midnight Sun from Pat McGrath. I'm going to say this much: if you're someone who doesn't have any of the mothership palettes and you're wondering which one to get first, if you are after the very special formulas from Pat McGrath, I would recommend going, I don't know, with Bronze Seduction, because I feel like it's the most universally appealing color story and it has the most stunning topper shades over this one, just because I think if you're going to go for like the super special experience of the really glittery shades, you're not going to get it with this palette. But if you're someone who prefers these fall type of colors, you don't care for glitter and you're curious about Pat McGrath, I think you're going to love this palette. I know that a bunch of you have already bought this palette, so I'm curious what you guys think about it. Do you think it's going to be one of your favorites, or do you think it's going to be one of your meh Pat McGrath Mothership editions? Let me know in the comment section below. Apologies that I've been away for so long. The short version is I have a lot of things on my mind, and when I have a lot of things on my mind I get a little bit stressed, and YouTube really goes very much on the bottom of my priority list. But I do miss hanging out here with you, talking to you, and being on YouTube, so hopefully I will, you know, try to catch up a little bit. Anyway, let's stop rambling. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to see more from me, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!